Yeah. Okay. Okay, so a little bit more earlier concern is the cognitive jobs impact. Basically, if you're in a cognitive job, you are exposed to some extent, some percent of your tasks are exposed to cognitive AI, 25 to 50% according to Goldman Sachs. It's a little bit hard to see, but lots of different jobs, education jobs, customer service jobs, healthcare jobs, are all these different, any cognitive job basically is going to have some portion of it impacted by generative AI. So it's going to substantially change most, if not all, cognitive jobs. It may eliminate some jobs in the process. It's going to create some new jobs. It could free up time to do more meaningful things. But we know it's going to be transformative. So the maxim here is you won't be replaced by AI. That's the good news. Bad news is you'll be replaced by someone who knows AI, right? So the question now is, how soon do I get skilled people up to know AI? And that's also goes for organizations. Organizations are not going to be replaced by AI. They're going to be replaced by organizations that are fast adopters of AI. So we're going to talk a little bit about going forward, and then we'll open up for questions. So that bar there, you can see it's in 2055, and it was before ChatGPT where we thought AI was going to have artificial general intelligence. Then after ChatGPT, you can see how that moved to closer in. It's now at about 2030. This is a prediction, right? And so the history of all history is basically the history of unintended consequences. And so you see this declining graph here, and that is gum sales after the iPhone announcement. So the idea is that the iPhone, people used to be in the aisle checking out, and they would go see, I'll go buy a Snickers or I'll buy some gum, but now I'm looking at my iPhone, so I don't bother, right? And so now my gum sales have plummeted. Right? So there's three paradoxes of generative AI. So it's the great equalizer and the great unequalizer. It is the better human than humans, and the creator and the destroyer. So the great equalizer, basically in some jobs, it will improve the capability of those less skilled almost to the point where they are equal to those that are the most skilled, right? So I'll give you an example here. And there's several different types of jobs, customer service jobs, actually even consulting jobs. So this is a consulting slide where you can see, this was with BCG consultants, and the bottom 50% of the skilled and the top 50% of the skilled were given AI. They both improved, but those that were less skilled improved significantly more than those that were more skilled. And if you were the more skilled at the beginning, but you didn't adapt AI and the less skilled did, they would surpass you, right? So you might have 25, 30 years of experience, but poof, that's gone because this other person's using AI. It's also, though, on the flip side, when it was mentoring people, mentoring entrepreneurs, it actually you worked the reverse. It was the great unequalizer. So if someone was experienced and it mentored them, they got a great gain. But if they weren't experienced, it actually had a negative impact on them. Better human than humans. It's actually very creative. It's also seen as it's better at bedside manner than doctors, right? Think about it. It's infinitely patient, answers all your questions, it's available 24/7, and also for therapy, it actually performs with humans, AI plus humans performs better than humans alone, right? There was a Wharton creativity test that pitted AI against MBAs, and the AI won by a 7-to-1 ratio, right? So they gave them 400, there were 200 MBAs, 200 ChatGPT entries. They took the top 40 of those, had it judged by a panel, human panel, and the top 40, 35 were created by ChatGPT. I think, people think of, will AI destroy us? I think it may actually seduce us instead. So it's starting to replace human-to-human interaction. So there's this thing called Digi, and there's also called Replica. So you can have AI boyfriends, AI girlfriends, and $20 a month, man. So it's like, I can either $20 a month on GPT-4, or I can have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. So this one is based off of, it creates your girlfriend on a Disney character. So you think about the big eyes and all that stuff, right? So that's that. Yeah, so you're starting to see it. You're going to start seeing ChatGPT mirrored with robotics, and you see this here in Norway, where it's helping you in the kitchen, right? This is backed by OpenAI, but eventually you're going to get to, I think, AI spouses, right? So like you want to have a human AI spouse or a human spouse, right, which is grumpy some of the time and ages, or do you want to have 5 AI spouses that are robotic and that do not age? They're always supportive of you. You can tune the personality, and you could have them built off of celebrity, past lover. You could download all the past texts and emails you got from your past lover and have it, do as a custom GPT with that. You can tell I've been thinking about this. Always available, right? Updatable, replaceable, and it's not going to break up with you. And so it can also be seen as potentially super persuasive. So this is Altman, right? He's thinking about AI can be super persuasive to humans. And Yuval Harari, who wrote the book *Sapiens*, which is a pretty interesting book. He was writing about AI. He said we lost the first encounter with AI with social media, and now we're going into the second encounter. When you look at it from a military standpoint, you're going to start seeing AI in the military systems. There's something called the kill chain, right? So whenever you want to take out a target, you have to do everything from acquisition to taking out the target, and there's a series of steps in there. And right now, the policy is that in every step, there must be a human involved, right? The problem is humans slow down the process, right? And if you want to, warfare is a battle of speed, right? And so you're going to get to the point where it's like, okay, well, we're not going to be in part of the process, but we'll be overseeing the entire process, right? Because you're going to have to take humans out if you want to compete with the AI. AI, when you look at it, when it's put into games, for example, like Go, it is extremely creative in coming up with moves that you don't expect, and is extremely fast and extremely aggressive. The creator and destroyer, and here you have the picture of Shiva. Shiva's the Hindu god of creation, destruction, and transformation. So it creates stuff, right? It's in the name, generative, right? Genesis, from the Hebrew in the beginning. So it just creates stuff. So it's going to create jobs, it's going to create content, it's going to create knowledge, it's going to create new products, and it's also going to destroy jobs and companies as well, right? And it's going to have, we don't know really how this is all going to turn out yet. One of the things they're talking about is, in terms of, if you look over here on the left, it's a company, it's filled with people, and then you get to these companies where it's a company and it's a fewer people and a bunch of AI assistants, right? So, the future is going to be increasingly dynamic, right? We are not destined to live in quiet times. And from an organizational standpoint, right, it fundamentally alters business models, right? So you have to rethink your strategy. You have to rethink your strategy if you're any kind of business. It's a little bit hard to see, but what you see up there are the functions that are going to be most impacted are those that are customer facing, so marketing and sales and product R&D are going to be the most impacted. Those that are less impacted but will still be impacted are those that are behind the curtain, like supply chain, finance, some of those functions. You're starting to see companies adopt this already for some very simple things, like I just want to draft a letter, or I want to draft a press release, to actually creating new products, right? So companies, leading edge companies, are starting to use this. They're starting to see pretty big efficiency gains already, and you're only going to see that accelerate. And so generative AI is going to follow the typical adoption curve. And so you saw it a little bit in here, right? I asked you how many people are using it. Well, this table, there was a lot of people using it, and then other places, right, there was hardly anybody or no one had used it, right? So you're going to see that. And the people that will gain the advantage will be those that adopted the earliest on. And then the question is, how fast is its adoption curve, right? So you're seeing increasingly going from PCs to the internet to mobile, the time of adoption decreases. But to be honest with you, I'm very surprised at how slow the adoption has been of generative AI, right? I thought by this time, everyone would be using generative AI. And a lot of people, even students, are not using generative AI for a number of different reasons. Some of it is just inertia. You have to really think about, you have to get familiar with it and think about, let me put it this way. We all get to be successful, and we get to be successful by having a certain workflow, right? We have a certain way of doing things, and to change your workflow, your way of doing things, you have to see a significant advantage. And you have to go first try this, and then you have to integrate that into your workflow and change your workflow. That's very hard for people to do, right? So that's part of this inertia. And then eventually we'll have large language models in our pockets, right? You're gonna see that, and the phone will be an extension of that. And they're starting to have devices now that are even smaller than smartphones. Will be, AI glasses, et cetera, or integrated into us. And so you're gonna see, hyper personalization, generate shows on demand, personalized medicine, in gaming, right? You can create all different types of new worlds to play in. So lots of different ways AI is going to impact things. But in that process, right, we're here now on this AI hype, right, where people are all like, wow, this is going to be awesome. Or I would say we were a little bit more last year. Now it's kind of in this little bit of a lull. People are starting to try and implement it. It's hard when you implement things, right? When we were implementing things at UNC, you've got processes, you've got people, you've got the technology, you've got existing applications. It takes a long time. You've got concerns about legal risks, right? Right. We know that there's regulations that are coming, and so that can be a big impediment to the adoption of AI. AI uses a lot of the power grid. AI uses a lot of water. The chips are becoming very expensive. There's lots of legal issues, right? New York Times is suing OpenAI, and the authors are suing OpenAI saying you stole our data, right? You're breaking copyright laws. So we'll see how this all goes. I mean, I would say those things are probably going to slow the adoption as well, in addition to inertia by humans. Where we are at UNC, we think the world in this new world, AI is going to be ubiquitous. It'll be everywhere. It'll be undetectable. We don't think you can detect it in student submissions, and it's going to be transformative. We just don't know quite how yet. One example here is Khan Mingo. So Khan Academy, if people are familiar with that, K through 12 or K through 8 maybe it is. That it helps kids, so they work with ChatGPT to create a Conmigo tutor, which is ChatGPT inside of a wrapper, which is a Socratic wrapper. It asks you questions, so it doesn't give you the answer, it asks you questions so that the student has to think about and get the answer, right? So you're gonna see that, right now, I don't know, 5-6 years from now, people coming into the university will have grown up with their own AI tutor, right? And so how is that going to be different, and how does that change education for us? And what skills will be lost in the process, right? When you think about, how many of you know how to read a map? Okay, most of you, right? But yeah. So thanks, Jen. So most, okay. Yeah, but like if you don't have GPS, like you probably don't need to read. How many people who have grown up with GPS don't know how to read a map? Like, and if you took GPS away from them, like could they find their way home? I don't know. Right? It's going to be the same thing.
A couple minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So our philosophy is really AI should help you think, not think for you, and that's really what we're telling our students, right? And this, I got just 2 more charts. So I think what's going to happen, and we're going to have an interesting session where what does AI mean for the humanities? But in some ways, I think it'll make it even more important, because in the age of AI, you need to think about, how do I major in being human, right? You will still need domain knowledge. We will still need people to have domain knowledge so they can ask the right questions and evaluate the output. They will need imagination, which will be fueled by AI. They will need to take the initiative, right? We still need people to take the lead on things, come up with things. They need to, in a sense, we might go back to ancient Greece, where it was less about writing and it was more about oratory, right? Rhetoric may now become more important in charisma, because now the writing can be done by AI. Your ability to organize, understand organizations, and build your networks to get things done will be important. You'll need to have global and cultural knowledge as things become more interconnected. One of the things that I think we really are deficient in the university, and and I get sometimes places looks at this, other times I get nods of approval, is that we need to move from a safety culture to a resilience culture, right? This is good. If we are going to be living in dangerous times or dynamic times, people need to be resilient. They need to be anti-fragile, not put in safe spaces. You need virtues. You need virtues and character, right? To think about how to use this ethically, and of course, then you need generative AI skills. So, Alan Turing, who's the guy that started all this back in 1950 with this paper about artificial intelligence, the very last sentence is we can see only a short distance ahead, but we can see there's plenty that needs to be done. That's kind of where we are at now. So with that, I will open it up for questions. So, thank you. Questions? Yes, sir.
So, thanks for going out, Professor McNeilly.
Yeah.
So you said that there's the front end stuff, marketing and whatnot, that's more likely, back end less likely logistics.
Yeah.
Where does law fall in?
Law is going to be, there's going to be, so.
Like the use of commercial code.
Yeah, a lot of it is going to be, I think, put in it's going to be hugely impacted by generative AI. It's actually one of the top skills. Are you in law school?
No.
Okay. Okay, got to know your audience. Yeah, so it's going to be impacted significantly, probably paralegals, first-year law students coming out. So on the one hand, you can forecast it going down, the demand for lawyers. On the flip side, you could say, well, you've got all these legal issues, so it actually may open up a whole new field. So this is where it's hard to know. I think it'll be significant portions of the legal profession that get picked up by generative AI, replaced by, tasks are replicated by AI, but there are potentially new fields that might open up. So, yeah, but I think it's up there. John?
What do you think are going to be the scholarly standards around AI? I'm thinking specifically about Claudine Gay just got in all this trouble about plagiarizing. Specifically, what I didn't read any of the specifics, but it sounded like she was plagiarizing her lit review.
Right.
Which, huge temptation, right, to have AI write your lit review because writing lit reviews is a pain.
Yeah.
So, how do you think the scholarly standards will be changed in response to AI?
I think you have to think about, you have to take a step back and think about what is it that we're trying to do in the process of scholarly work, right? And if it's work that is AI can help you generate new knowledge, right? I could potentially create a custom GPT. I could put, if I were a professor of Congress, right? I've studied Congress, right? And I could put a lot of the data about Congress and past Congresses into a large language model, and I could start asking it questions. I could put in all kinds of research about it, and I can ask it to generate insights about the research, right? Is it doing what I should be doing? I don't know. I could then maybe potentially take some of those things and build off of that, right? So I think it's going to be a question of what is it we expect from scholars anymore? Is it I've got to go down and do all of this myself, or do I become good at understanding how this thing works and generates knowledge, and I become a coordinator of knowledge?
As a follow-up, are UNC's honor code policies, are those going to be changed? Are they ready for this?
Yeah, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah, so one of the things the UNC Generative AI Committee did was create it isn't exactly policy per se, because that's got to go through this whole process, but we gave guidelines. And the basic philosophy for everything we did was it should help you think, not think for you, right? And we gave training for people, and basically it's if you're going to use it, document how you used it. And then we gave specific use cases of where it's appropriate to use it, where it's not appropriate to use it. We also told faculty there's no such thing as a chat GPT proof assignment, unless you make sure they can't access a computer, right, or a device. And so, I know a professor who was using in history ChatGPT to answer questions and generate ideas with his class, but he's also having them do tests in Blue Books, right? So that's where the Blue Book's going to come back. Oral exams might come back, right? But this is where I get back to, does it come back down to rhetoric and charisma and a return to, ancient Greece and Rome? So, yeah. Yes, sir.
So, this is a fascinating conversation.
Thank you.
You sold me on $20 a month. I will. I'm thinking back in the 70s and 80s, we have textile mills all over North Carolina. We don't have textile mills anymore.
Yeah.
And what happened to those people? And we immediately say, well, economically, they'll just find something else to do. But if we have this huge disruption in markets, where we don't need all of the teachers, we need the best teacher. Best teacher can teach us all. We could have a huge disruption. What impact, have we thought about what type of impact that could have on society with that much change coming very quickly?
Yeah, so Sam Altman has, and he's got that's where his vision of, he's got a couple of things that OpenAI is doing, which is trying to study, like, how do I reskill people to do different stuff? The problem is like, how do I know what to reskill them to, right? I have no idea, like, what I didn't know a year ago, over a year ago, plus that this thing was gonna come out, and now it came out, and so, people ask me, like, what career should I go into? It's like, how the hell would I know? I mean, it's like, this thing came out and totally threw all of us for a loop. I mean, who knows what's gonna come out in 3 months, right? Or next month, or tomorrow, right? So he's doing that, but then he's also big on universal basic income. But then the question really becomes, what is humans meaning, right? Where do we get, a lot of us get our meaning from work, and if this thing can do everything better than us, then what is the point of us doing work? Now, on the flip side, people would look at and say, hey, we had chess masters, computers can beat pretty much everybody at chess, but there's been a resurgence in the interest of chess, right? So it's hard to say where it will lead us. And so, another question is, like, should I even bother having kids, right? Well, one view is like, no, because, the kids, AI is gonna take over the world. The other view is like, well, I'm not gonna have anything else to do, so I may as well raise kids, right? And just spend time with my family. So it's like, there's a lot of unknowns. People are thinking about it, but nobody's got any answers.
Sure.
And they don't have any answers on the alignment thing. So the same people that are like pushing down this path don't have an answer on the alignment.
I'll ask one of those.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you for your comments. It's fascinating. So
Thank you.
the focus of everything you talked about was large language models, LLM,
Yeah.
which is ChatGPT,
Yeah.
at least the most prevalent
Right.
example of that. Businesses have decades of data,
Yes.
and so what are your thoughts about what's the role of, you didn't mention this, large graphical models for time series data doing generative AI for tabular data? That's immense potential for businesses. But I was just at an AI Summit conference in Manhattan a week ago.
Yeah.
99% of the people there were all about LLMs.
Yeah.
But large graphical models for generative tabular data is immense opportunity. Is that something you guys are thinking about and talking also, or are you including that as a subset or a sister of LLMs?
Yeah, when we say ChatGPT, we really mean generative AI, but then we also really mean AI, right? So we're working, the co-chair is the head of the School of Data Science in Society, so they're very much focused on the whole data part and how does that, relay, so it's not just a large language model thing, it's really all types of ways you can generate data and information and video and models, right? It's all those different things. Yes, sir.
So are the days of students writing papers over, since, that it used to be what students did, you wrote papers, now you don't really, how do you?
I think I don't want that to be the case. I think you can use generative AI to help you write better papers, to help you think more clearly, to give you ideas, right? There's something that I wrote an article called cross-domain thinking, which basically, so if you think about Velcro, right? So Velcro was discovered by this guy, or invented by this guy, who was out walking with his dog, and his dog got one of those burrs on him, right? And so that's how he decided to do Velcro. So it's the idea, I take idea from one place and I put it into another place. That's cross-domain thinking. So you can use generative AI for cross-domain thinking. So you say, for example, what can ants tell me about national defense, right? What's the study of ants, or what the nature of ants can tell me about national defense? And it will give you a whole bunch of ideas that, you know, about national defense from the study of ants, right? And so you can take this with any, you have all different types of conceptual models, right? And you have your domain, and you can just apply all those to your domain and come up with new ways to think about stuff. So I know I wandered way off of your question, but I think it can be used to make you think better. It can help you understand concepts much better. That's what I use it for. Like when I come across a word, I say, give me the definition of this word, give me examples of this, give me analogies for this, right? Or these concepts. So it's very good at that, and it's not going to hallucinate on that. And I think that can be done to really improve people's thinking processes and writing. But for us to be able to do that, we need to, when I say we, educators, right, we need to know these tools, right? And professors are lagging behind students in the adoption of these tools.
Well, this has changed so fast, so educators, you know, there's tools now that can check to see whether it was generated by ChatGPT.
Yeah, but
And
those don't
now
work
they
very
help
well.
you change it so it doesn't get detected by these detectors, so it's
Yeah.
a crazy loop.
No, you can't, I mean, those tools will catch bad use of generative AI, but they can't catch everything. They will also give you false positives. So, for example, people whose language is not English as a first language will tend to write like AI writes. And so it will be picked up as they are cheating. So you are potentially, you know, accusing people primarily whose English is not their first language of cheating, which you can imagine how that goes over. So yeah, I just got a question from another professor, like, hey, should we be using this thing? I said, I would never use it.
So we have
Back.
just one more minute or so.
Oh.
We've got to wrap it up for Q&A.
Okay.
How would
And
this,
Oh, he,
go ahead.
how would your presentation be different if you just said, give me a presentation on AI?
I think,
You obviously made judgments,
Yes.
this slide and this slide.
Yeah.
I do all the time as well.
Right.
I loved it, but this is fantastic.
oh, thank you.
But if you said, I need to do a presentation tonight on AI and ChatGPT PowerPoint, what would it look like?
It would give you the basics of it, but it's not gonna do, this is where the domain knowledge comes in, right? This is where you still need domain knowledge. And that's where the human part comes in. Now, is it gonna get better? It's gonna get better, right? But yeah, this is where I mean, for me, it's an awesome tool, right? But I don't know, for somebody starting at the beginning, what will that be like when it now can do pretty much, you know, I had to learn all this stuff myself, and now I can use that to interact with this thing, but now if I no longer have to use that, I don't know. Yeah.
So let me just ask you one more question as we wrap it up.
Sure.
Just maybe kind of like a.
And I'll be around for questions if
kind
you
of
have any.
Yeah, kind of a BASIA application, and that would be, do you think it's going to overall improve the individual liberty of individuals, or do you think we're going to be maybe more subject to dominance and control by these really powerful interests?
I think if you're a thinking person, it can potentially help you, but I mean, we thought, you know, if you go back and you look at the analogy of social media, right, we all thought that was gonna make everyone cooperate and work better together, and we know that turned out. That didn't work. And so it goes back to you know, all history is the history of unintended consequences, and it's like, or unforeseen consequences. I mean, I think that's it. I think we have no idea. I mean, you know, and this, once it starts, especially, I mean, I really do believe it's like you're going to see these robots with personalities, and it's like, you know, how do I distinguish them from people? And it's like, would I rather interact with them, and would I rather just have them run the company, and you know, and then what do I do? And like, so I have no idea.
Make sure you're.
Yeah. I wish I could give you an answer that the future is all rosy. Don't worry about it. But it's,
For the AI robot, Rosie.
yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's terrific. Thank you so much. I mean,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, let's stay here for another 10 hours. But just wanted to say thank you very much for coming. There's a QR code on your table, which is helpful to us. If you scan it, make sure you either let us know you're here or you maybe contribute. We are going to continue to grow with contributions from people who come to our excellent events. And thank you very much.